Hello everyone, this is Take from bigheadtaco.com and welcome to BHT Studios. It has finally happened, everyone. I have in my possession the brand new Ricoh GR3. Now what you're seeing here is not the Ricoh GR3, but to me, it's kind of closest sibling. Not in terms of generation, but in terms of the spirit of the camera. And I'll tell you a little bit later why, but this is the Ricoh GRd4, and the giveaway is the autofocus window, the passive autofocus window at the top there. And this here, there you go, here is the brand new Ricoh GR3, although it is very similar in size to the Ricoh GRd4. Took a while for me to get a copy. I wanted it directly from Ricoh. I didn't want to get it through a retailer or through an affiliate. I wanted Ricoh to send me one because that way when I give feedback, I know that I'm actually giving feedback back to Ricoh. So I know a lot of you guys wanted me to review it way back in February, March, April when all the reviewers started to get copies. And at that time I was asking Ricoh Imaging to send me a copy, but couldn't happen till now. So I finally got a copy. So let's start my first impression. So I have this for 2 weeks and I will be doing my shooting impressions and then you'll see the images I'm getting out of it. But for now, this is just I wanted to do a comparison video and sort of talk a little bit about the camera, but not without the camera in my hand. So I've had a chance to play with it for the last maybe hour or so, and I haven't figured out everything, but I've kind of figured my way through it. And so let's start my first impressions now. So to begin this video, I thought that I would actually sort of bring all my Ricoh GR. So I've been shooting the Ricoh GR1, this film camera, since 1998, and that's when I bought it brand new. Even have the box here. And I love this camera, and since then I've always had a soft spot for the GR series. This is the first digital GR that I bought, the GRd4, in 2011. I think that's when that came out. And then I did buy the first APS-C sensor GR, and that's kind of when people really started paying attention to this line. The GR, it came out in 2013, and this is the limited edition. It came with the case, came with the leather neck strap, leather case, came with the adapter as well as the hood. I have that. I have the adapter here anyways. This is the adapter. I have other things attached to the top, and then here's the hood here. But this is kind of when people started paying attention because of that APS-C size sensor. And from 2013, 2015 came the GR2, which wasn't much of an upgrade. Basically, they added Wi-Fi, and it was one of the worst Wi-Fi implementations I've ever seen. But the camera was still fantastic. It was a great camera. It just was not a connected camera. And it took another 4 years before the GR3 was released. But really, since the GR in 2013, having from this GR to the latest GR here, that's a 6-year gap. So it took a while for Ricoh, and a lot of us were kind of worried, and I too was worried that they wouldn't come out with this camera, and they finally did. And so really happy. I'm happy with a lot of the decisions they made. And one of the first criticisms that I heard, which to me doesn't make a lot of sense, is the price at $900 US. The Ricoh GR came out in 2013. It was $800 US, and then the GR2 came out. It was $800. They did drop the price pretty quickly after because people realized it wasn't much of an upgrade, but still it came out at $800 US and $900. From $800 in 2013 to $900, it's a $100 increase over a 6-year gap. And let's just say there was no 6-year gap. Let's just say the gap was just 2 years. Adding the features that they added to this, IBIS, which is kind of a big deal, and they also redid the lens. That difference, I think you will even see that in other companies. When Fujifilm put the IBIS in the XH1 but not in the XT2, there was quite a significant price increase to have IBIS. And that, I say IBIS, the in-body image stabilization or sensor shift or whatever Ricoh calls it. It was kind of what a feat to be able to put image stabilization in a body this tiny. And looking at it looking at it side by side to the Ricoh GRD4, very similar. The GRD4 is slightly smaller, and it is definitely lighter. The GR3 is small, but actually it's quite heavy for its size. When you compare it to the GR2, which looks quite a bit bigger, but in terms of weight, the GR3 is heavier, and that's again because of the IBIS. It's just a more dense camera, and that's even without having a built-in flash. And so to me, I have no problem with the $900. That's kind of the price that you would expect for what you're getting in this camera in this day and age. It's a niche camera. It's not meant for everyone. It's not a camera that does everything for you. You have to work for it. It's not just handed to you, just like getting a Leica rangefinder camera. You have to work for it. And so I think the price is reasonable. It works up to 1,200 Canadian. 24 megapixels is a great leap from 16. And I always kind of felt that when everyone moved on to 24 megapixel, with the APS-C, I felt that as much as I liked the GR, this is the original GR, but even the GR2, I felt that the 16 for professional work just wasn't enough for me. Although as an amateur shooter or someone who's just shooting for yourself and for fun, you're shooting for socials, even shooting to print, 16 megapixels is still good enough. But as a pro tool, 24 megapixels is kind of a must now. It's kind of a minimum at this point. So that's great. No low pass filter, which has always been the case. I'm not sure with. Actually, I think even with the GRD4, there was no low pass filter or the AA filter, and that's great. Although there is a sensor shift way where they do kind of simulate the AA filter. Macro on this is 6 centimeter, which is quite an improvement over the GR and the GR2, which was I think 10 centimeters. But the best macro on a Ricoh GR digital is actually this guy here, the GRD4. This guy actually had 1 centimeter. If you came in at the wrong angle, you would actually, the lens would hit whatever you're trying to take a picture of. So GRD4 is still the king for macro, but 6 centimeters is still great for APS-C. And on top of that, you can still crop in. You got 15-bit DNG RAW files with the new GR Engine 6, so you have a new processor, which is great. And as mentioned, it's the 3-axis, they call it the shake reduction system. That is really what you're paying a lot for. They're saying up to 4 stops. Some are saying they feel it's about 2 stops or so. I'm going to test it out myself, but it definitely looks more than 2 stops. 4 stops, we'll see. But a little quick quiz, I'm going to give you the answer right away anyways. This was not the first Ricoh GR to have IBIS, to have sensor shift stabilization. The first Ricoh GR to have that is, again, the GRD4. This actually had sensor shift. Ricoh said it was about 2 stops. I felt it was about 1.5 stops, something that a lot of guys don't remember. It's a 2-stop ND, which was on the GR as well, so allows you to shoot at f2.8 if you wanted to. You can still shoot wide open, which is great. It has hybrid autofocus, so it has the phase detect, which is on sensor, and you have the contrast detect system. And again, there was another Ricoh GR that had a dual focus system, which was, again, the GRD4. And you could see that. You could see the little hybrid focus system. This is not phase detect because it's not on sensor, but it is a passive autofocus, which is similar to what was on the film Ricoh GR. You could see that 2 little windows there, and here are the two little windows in here. And so this also had a hybrid autofocus system, and the GRD4 did focus faster to me than the GR and the GR2. So this, to me, it was actually a step down when they went to the GR and the GR2 for autofocus. But the GR here, the new GR3, has the phase and contrast detect. And I'm going to be able to test that. It looks like everyone on their reviews are saying that definitely it is faster, but it's not mind-blowingly faster. Something that a lot of people don't talk about much is actually Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, because that's something that people want. People want a connected device. People want to be able to shoot and then quickly transfer over to the smartphone. I know initially when this came out, a lot of people were complaining that it wasn't working very well, or it just wouldn't connect with the existing Ricoh GR app. But I think now it's been fixed. I still think this should be more of a connected device. They should have apps, maybe VSCO filters that are actually built into this camera. Work with VSCO, work with R&I, work with these different brands, and create different profiles, film profiles, digital profiles, be able to upload directly to Facebook or Instagram right from the camera. I think that really is the future of these compact point and shoots, because there aren't a lot of them around anymore. This used to be king. This is my first digital point and shoot right here, and these things were king. Everyone had one. Now nobody has one. Everyone just uses their smartphone. So being connected is important. Touch screen on here, and I tested it quickly. Really good. It even works with the menus, which is a big deal for me, because I think being able to go through your menus using touch, it's a lot faster. It's a very nice touch as well. It has a 35 crop, which gives you a 15 megapixel equivalent sensor readout. It's a 4800 by 3200, and you also get a 50 millimeter crop, which is a 7 megapixel, which is still great for socials. It's a 3360 by 2240, so still reasonable. Although I think it's better just to shoot at 28 and then just crop after, but it is there if you want it. And has video 1080p. Now a lot of you guys know I started my YouTube channel with my Ricoh GR, using this for most of my videos. Camera girl, my wife was my camera girl. She was my videographer, and so even though a lot of people will knock on the Ricoh GR for video, I'm gonna test it anyways. But it has up to 60 frames per second, which is great. So I'm gonna check that out, as well as 24 frames per second. Internal 2GB memory, so it's up to about 40 raw images. If you forgot to put a card, at least you got 40 raw shots. And as well, you do have what Ricoh's always had from the very start. Ricoh has the wide angle, the 0.75. So you do 28 times 0.75, you get 21 millimeters. And though you do need to use this this adapter here so you can add accessories, which I wish they didn't have to do that. But we'll talk about that a little bit later, about these, and I'll even do an unboxing here. And so that's kind of going over the specs. Let's now go into the pros, cons, and then comparisons with other cameras. Alright guys, so let's go over the pros of the new Ricoh GR. I'm sorry, Ricoh didn't send me the box, so I'm going to use my GRD4 box for just as a kind of a prop. But the pros for the new Ricoh GR3 is they really did keep the spirit of the original GR1 film camera, which is this one right here, it's the thin profile. One unique thing about the Ricoh GR1 film camera is it doesn't have the 3-point, but it does have a 2-point strap system. And a lot of point and shoots, even to this day, a lot of the digital point and shoots always had just a single place where you can attach a strap, and that's fine. A lot of people just want it as a wrist strap, and so Ricoh gave you two back in the film days, and it was a vertical carry, which is very unique. And since then, every Ricoh GR has had at least a 2-point, and then went digital with the GRD, which I don't have. See, this is a GRD4, again, 1, 2, and 3. So depending on where you want either a single strap or double strap, you can do this vertical carry or horizontal carry. And you've seen my YouTube videos, I like to carry my Ricoh GR around my neck using the two lugs to have it around my neck, and or vertical this way here. And so that's my preferred carry. And again, that is in the spirit of the original GR1, and I think that's great that they did that. As well, there was a Ricoh GR21 film camera, which was a 21mm ultra wide angle. And since then, when they went digital, Ricoh always offered a wide angle adapter, and that's the wide conversion lens here. Unfortunately, it's huge, and you also have to buy the accessory adapter to be able to go that wide, but at least they give you that option. And again, that is in the spirit of the original GR. And another thing about the spirit of the Ricoh GR is that it was one of the most intuitive cameras. Flash on and off here, or auto. You had on and off right here. You had aperture control, a program right here, and then you had exposure compensation to the left. It was always easily accessible, and that has been a sort of a theme in all the Ricoh GRs, that you can access these things very quickly. It was a shooter's camera, and that's why the original Ricoh GR was so popular, and that's why I think even to this day there is the cult of Ricoh GRs. Really started way back in 1996. The spec jumped to 24 megapixels, great. I think that's good. 14-bit DNG RAW. Although for them to take 6 years to update the processor and the sensor, I think it's not really a pro in terms of, like, I think it was necessary. Going more compact is appreciated, but not at the expense of missing out on some features and other things. And so I'll go into that, but we do appreciate that the new GR3 is as small as the 1/1.7 inch censored GRD4. It's slightly bigger and definitely heavier, but it's gotten smaller, which is great. I never felt that this GR or GR2 was too big, but it did feel bigger. Improved lens, which I am surprised. 6 elements in, what was it now? 6 elements in 4 groups with 2 spherical. And if you actually look at the design of the lens, it even looks beautiful. And the biggest thing I was concerned about was, wow, why mess with this great formula? Every Ricoh GR lens has been sharp from the film GR. This lens was so famous that they actually made an LTM or like a thread mount version of this lens. But this was, I think, a 7 element and 5 groups lens. And then the first Ricoh GR digital, that was also a very sharp lens. And every Ricoh GR, Ricoh really made sure that the lens was a big feature of the camera, and they have never disappointed. And so they, again, with this new design, everyone's saying it's even sharper than this. And I've always said that this lens was super sharp, especially when comparing to its competition. And now they even gotten sharper. And what else? Touchscreen. That's great. I'm glad it has touchscreen. Wi-Fi and Bluetooth is really appreciated. I think having a connected device is important for this category to exist and to survive. Having USB-C is also great, and hopefully they can add more features. Right now it's for data transfer as well as charging, but I'm hoping that they'll even allow it to be able to add maybe a microphone. And so hopefully they can make this a more versatile connection, not just for data and power, as well as, of course, IBIS, which is really what everyone's been looking for. And that's something I'm looking forward to testing. And then improved autofocus, as well as more accurate autofocus, as well as improved macro. So overall, these are all the pluses of this camera. Now let's move on to the cons, because it can't always be good. There's always some kind of a compromise or a con. And I think the biggest con is not having a pop-up flash. Now, like many other GR shooters, I never used the pop-up, I shouldn't say never, I rarely use a pop-up flash. I actually use flash a lot. And on the Ricoh GR1, I use this a lot. I use this even on weddings. And using this flash, it was well balanced, and it just had this look that a point-and-shoot camera just didn't have. And that flash helped for daylight fill flash. The reason why I never used the GR flash on either of these or very often is because I always carried around an accessory flash. And this is the Fujifilm EF-X20 flash. And I like this because even though it doesn't have TTL with the Ricohs, it has manual power output. You could just use this for manual output. And another good flash is the Q20 by the Lightpix Labs. It even has bounce, which I like. There's bounce on this. It also has a wireless system where you can just let go here and you can actually do off-camera flash. And also has manual controls here, manual output, although it's a digital display. And so I always carry these 2 accessory flashes. So with the GR3, I'm gonna also just kind of always carry an accessory flash on here, but this has a leaf shutter lens, and that's why I love having flash. Daylight flash, you can flash sync up to 1/2000th of a second, and or even faster. I haven't tested it on this camera yet, but you can flash sync very fast, unlike most focal plane shutter cameras. And so I think it not having a flash kind of doesn't allow this to be a classic point and shoot where you just keep it in your pocket, you're at a party, you're indoors, and you want to do a quick portrait of a group, and so you want flash. This doesn't have it, so you have to carry an accessory flash. I'm a nerd, I carry accessory flashes, but a lot of people don't, so I think it's actually quite a negative to remove having that flash there. And then the negative, I would say, is that and that's always been the case with all the digital GRs, is there's no optical viewfinder. And there's no reason why they can't put one in. Even something as small as the Canon S400, one of the first great digital point shoots, this has a little optical. See how small it is? It's not very accurate, but it's super tiny. The reason why they can fit it is because look how small that screen is. So for Ricoh to be able to put a optical viewfinder like right in that corner there, so they have to move this autofocus, this light here over here, is if they put it in this corner, guess what? They're gonna have to shrink the size of the screen. And I'm actually willing to bet that a lot of guys are willing to lose a little bit of screen real estate for an optical viewfinder. They've actually reduced the resolution of the rear screen. It used to be 1.2 million pixels and now it's down to 1. And if you're only using the rear screen for focusing, I think it's really important that you have a really high resolution LCD, but they went to a cheaper LCD, and I think it's probably because of the touch screen ability, but I wish it had a higher resolution screen, as well as an EVF, OVF, built-in OVF or an EVF option. Another thing is the D-pad here. I wish, they got rid of quite a few kind of buttons here. They got rid of this back focus, autofocus button, which a lot of guys, I guess, didn't use this that often, but I do like that you could back focus. I have yet to figure out how to back focus this, but you're also missing, like here, you can do FN, I think, on these two back here, but I wish all 4 of these were just customizable FN buttons. This had more function buttons, custom function buttons, as well as the GRD4. You can actually pair some of your function buttons and scroll through the different pairings. And so I wish you could do that. More custom function ability in here. The loss of some of those buttons, including the toggle for exposure compensation. I wish they didn't get rid of this toggle here, guys, because every GR has had this toggle. I know you can use this rear adjustment toggle, but I've always hated this. This is, why couldn't they put a full spinning dial in the back instead of this rear toggle dial? And now when you press in, you do get the extra features, and if you don't press in, it's always exposure compensation, but I always use that for immediate access to ISO. So this GR had access to ISO here, exposure compensation here, you shoot an aperture priority, and it was just perfect. Now you have, and also you have back focus button here. This one here, I don't think I can set it up exactly the same way, and so I'm a little bit disappointed with that, but I'm gonna see if there is a workaround, if I can work something out where I can sort of mimic what I did with the previous GRs. Another one is the battery life on this. Everyone's been complaining, but I understand the form factor and the fact that you have IBIS, it just takes up more battery. So even though it is a con, I accept the con. I accept that because of IBIS and they shrunk this a little bit, you actually do get less battery life. And unfortunately, it's a different battery. It's not the same battery as the previous one. And that's it. Those are my cons. I did mention I was gonna do the unboxing of the accessory wide-angle converter. So let's check this out here. This is kind of a oversized kind of a bag here. Wow, this is heavy. Now Ricoh GR has always done, their converters have always been good. Very little loss of image quality. When you put anything in front of a native lens, you are going to lose a little bit of resolution, but Ricoh's always done a really good job. I like this pinch lens cap. It's quite big and a lot of dust on here, so let me just blow that dust off. But this is a huge chunk of glass. You can even see that, and it's quite heavy. And they do give you this weird rubber lens hood, which I don't think it does much in terms of protection, which is usually why I like the lens hood, as well as reducing flare. But you know, with an ultra wide, you're gonna get flare anyways. But you cannot attach this directly to the camera. You need to use this accessory connector here, which is not only just for the wide angle converter, but you can use this to attach filters, which is what I did. I think you can. This actually feels different. I know I'm gonna confirm this, but you can see my my converter for the GR. This here is a 49 mil filter. With this, let's just see if this has a thread. Yes, it does. So yeah, so this does have a 49 mil filter. So you don't have to necessarily just use it to add the wide angle, but if you want to use filters on your new Ricoh GR3, you can. And so let's just take that off. This is, it looks very similar to, let's just see if it's the same. I don't think it's the same, but let's, so you gotta remove this ring, which I wish this ring was an actual, like a focus ring or functional ring, which much of the competition, the Fujifilm X70 as well as the Fujifilm XF10, it actually is the functional spinning ring. No, so it is a different connection. It's not the same. So you do need to update if you have the older GR, the GR2. And let's just figure out where the connection point is here. Okay, you can see here, there's the pin connection there. and here's the pin connection here. So there is an electronic connection, so you know that you're connecting, which is great. There you go. So now it's connected. And again, if you want to just put filters on here, you can. If you want to put a lens hood or anything like that, you can add that on here as an accessory. And let's just see if even my previous, so this was the previous, yeah, see, it's different. And it kind of feels a little bit cheaper as well. Not as nice as the previous GR. And this thing here, as you can, oh, look at that. So it actually is a 49 mil thread. And I'm going to be interested to see if this will work well on the previous GR, because the lens design is a little bit different. But if this is 49 mil thread, it should just fit on the other camera. And this is very front heavy and kind of weird looking, but and this is no longer compact, as you can see. But if you want to have that 21 millimeter ultra wide angle look in a compact form factor, this is what you have here. All right, so after going through the pros and cons, some of the wish list kind of overlaps with that. But the first thing is better manual focus control. The Ricoh GR, when you are in manual focus control, you can see the focus distance scale is to the left-hand side here. And it's basically, it's like 1 inch. And that's a little bit too small. So if you are trying to look at, if you're trying to scale or zone focus and you're using that little thumbprint of a distance scale, it's just not enough to be able to focus. Other companies like Fujifilm, their focus scale goes across this way. So you have like 3 inches of room that you can even see how much your aperture affects the depth of field, how much focus depth you're getting. And so Ricoh, if you can shift this and move this over down here. And again, that's just, I say just, I know it's a lot of work, but it is a firmware issue for you guys to fix. But a better way to manually focus, this will be a hardware thing, but in the future, if they can actually make a ring here to manually focus, weather sealed body, that might not be possible because of the way this lens is designed, but I think having this weather sealed would seal the deal, and this would become the one, as long as you're right with the 28 millimeter equivalent focal length, that you would take this on vacation and not worry about any damage, not just rain, but also cold, heat, humidity, dust, and things like that. And I mentioned before, but it seems controversial, but to shrink the size of the LCD so you can actually fit a optical viewfinder. Now, I'm going to again use this digital camera from like 2000 or 1999 or whenever this came out, the S400. The early point and shoots did actually have optical viewfinders. They're very tiny and they weren't that great, but they were better than nothing. And so I think Ricoh can do it, but if they did that, they would have to shrink the size of the screen. So you guys let me know down in the comments below, would you accept a smaller screen? So they probably have to go 2.5 inch screen or even smaller so they can squeeze in a optical viewfinder into this corner right here, if that is something you want. But I want something like that, as well as a improved way of viewing if they don't put that in there. I have a Fujifilm here, but Ricoh has their own. They didn't have one to send me, but you know, this optical viewfinder here allows for both 21 and 28, and Ricoh has one of these as well. So you have double frame lens in here, and so if you're shooting with the accessory ultra wide lens, that's great, but as well as being able to see outside your frame lines, to see people coming into your frame, I think it's great. But wouldn't it be great if they actually created a hybrid OVF, meaning if you put this on here, there's still electric contacts, and like the LCD screen on the Ricoh GR1, there is LCD information like focus distance, your shutter speeds and stuff that's in here, even though it's optical viewfinder, having that information in here electronically connected, and then this screen will automatically turn off. So if they can create a hybrid OVF with electronic contacts, with information in here, I think that would be a really innovative move on Ricoh's part. And they could still design it, right? Unless these contact points don't allow it. So then we have to wait for the Ricoh GR4. I'm gonna go out left field here and ask for something really weird, which is how about a dedicated Ricoh GR21 digital? So instead of having this big, huge this big adapter with a huge, heavy glass front, why not create a digital Ricoh GR21? And people might say, oh, well, how many of those will you sell? Well, how many Ricoh GR21s did Ricoh sell back in the early 2000s? Not too many, and yet they made it. It made a statement. They made them quite unique and different. I think if Ricoh did create a dedicated 21 millimeter, and with enough resolution, they could probably crop in from 21 to 28, just like how they crop 35 to 50. So you have a 21 and then crop to 28 and maybe 35 on 24 megapixel GRD21, or just call it a GR21. I think that'd be something really cool that people can look forward to. And I think it would actually sell reasonably well for as much of a niche product that it is. Another thing is accessories. If Ricoh decided to remove the flash from this camera, I think like other brands, like this is a Fujifilm one that you put on their cameras that they don't have a pop-up flash. Why didn't they create one where they could just add it on here? So this looks goofy and this does draw battery power, but if they just added something like this, then will it work? I wonder if it'll work. Let's just see here. Imagine this Fuji flash will work on here. Nah, it's not gonna work. But anyways, something like this would have been nice, either included or as an accessory, or if not, then create a dedicated compact flash that you can use on a Ricoh GR. Because, again, I think I was looking at the Ricoh range of flashes, and they just look like they're meant for DSLRs. They're not meant for a camera this small. And this still looks kind of big on this, but at least it's compact and it has manual dial. So Ricoh, can you create a compact flash dedicated to use on the Ricoh GR? I think that'd be great. And finally, I'm going to talk about accessories. Most of the accessories that you see on their website just is kind of okay. I wish they created a nice half case. Like this is the X70, which is kind of a copy of the Ricoh GR, but a nice little half case would be great. Better full cases with a wrap around the top. Other things, let me know down below what you think, but more cool accessories would be awesome. And so now let's go into my comparison portion, comparing this against some of its competition. So the first competition, or the camera that I'm going to compare the GR3 with, is the original GR or the GR2. Right now, retail, the new GR3 is $899, and the GR2, not the special edition one, is $546. So it's about $550. So about a $350 price difference. For the X350, you do get IBIS, you get a more compact body, and you have an improved image quality due to an improved lens, as well as a sensor and improved autofocus. But what you do lose is you lose a built-in flash, if that's really important to you. You lose some of the function, like some of the buttons and functionality. So you lose that toggle, the exposure compensation toggle switch in the back, and you do lose the autofocus and back focus button on the back. Although you probably can, again, I haven't worked it out, if you can use this here as a back focus button and then disconnect the focusing from the shutter here. So I'm gonna just dig through the menus, and you also gain the touch screen. So $350, I think for a lot of people it is worth that for an upgrade. And another camera that I've actually had for quite a while from Fujifilm is the XF10. Now this was supposed to be the replacement of the X70, which I do have here. So maybe I'll just have all three in here. The X70. Now this has a 24 megapixel Bayer sensor. It is using a lower end no-name processor, which is the biggest negative I find in here more than anything else. But it is 24 megapixel, and I'm gonna do sort of a side-by-side test, and I have a feeling that this, I've actually tested this XF10 even against the XT3 and the older XT2, and in some situations at ISO 3200 and 6400, I actually kind of liked, and also in some situations where there's a lot of detail in daylight, people talk about the smudging using the X-Trans sensor and processor. This Bayer sensor with 24 megapixel using some of the classic colors, like the classic chrome, and doesn't have acros, but film simulation, I actually was pretty impressed with the XF10. Now, again, it's probably going to be like a $350, $400 price difference between the two. I didn't check the price of the XF10, but you are getting a better camera with the GR3. It is a more pro oriented camera. The build quality is better. It doesn't have this goofy lens cap that you have to worry about. Lens is definitely sharper on the GR3 because this lens on the XF10 is the same as on the X70, and this was not even as sharp as the previous GR lens, and the new GR lens is even sharper. So this is not the sharpest lens, but it's a decent lens. And so this has the same lens as this camera, but it has a new processor. So you're getting a sharper lens on here. Couple of things actually that I think is better on the XF10 over the GR3 is, well, one, it has a built-in flash, although it doesn't have a hot shoe. I wish it had both, but it doesn't. The X70 does have both. But as well, it has this ring on the outside, which is customizable to not whatever you want, but the designated features that you want on here. It also has this dial here that's surrounding the shutter button, and then you have this rear dial here as well, and you have touchscreen, and you have a joystick instead of a D-pad, but you do have a touchscreen, and then you have this customizable button. So in terms of ergonomics and customization, the XF10 is, I would say, better than the GR3, and it's actually, I say it's better than the X70 in a lot of ways, because the X70 forces this dial here to be exposure compensation and shutter speed, where this one here, you can customize it, these two here and this one here. So you have 3 customizable dials, which is great. And they also switch depending on what mode you're in. So that feature alone is really, really great, but this is a consumer level processor. It's the same one that's on probably the XA5 and some of those consumer level cameras. But in terms of size, it's definitely bigger, but not much bigger. Like the XF10 is probably close in size to the previous GR. Maybe again a little bit thicker, but when you turn this camera on, the lens only sticks out that far. With a GR, when you turn it on, it sticks out a lot further. But once it's on, I guess you don't really care how far it sticks out. But just a different kind of a lens design on this camera. So this is probably the 2 current available 24 megapixel APS-C size censored point and shoots. The market has shrunk. There aren't that many point and shoots to begin with, let alone this kind of a weird non-zooming single focal length but large censored point and shoots. This is all that's available right now, and this is probably what people are looking at. You're getting what you pay for. I think it's like $4.99, or maybe it's $5.50. But this you're getting for $500. You are getting a great deal. APS-C, decent lens, great sensor, decent processing on that. Horrible video though, and no image stabilization. But you pay $400 more, you get that much more of a camera when you get this one here. So maybe what people are really looking at is really XF10 versus the GR2, and that's for another video. But that's probably something that people are looking at. And so I thought I would just bring this up, and I'm doing a long-term test on this, so I am going to probably do a written review on this for Fujilove maybe, but as well I'll do a little test on my video between these 2 cameras here. And that does bring us to the X70. I do have the half case on here. One of the things that people really liked about the X70 is that it had an articulating screen. And of course that adds to the thickness, but it doesn't add much more. It adds just a couple of millimeters. With the GR, would it have been better if it had an articulating screen? It would have been better, but it would have been thicker. And I think the whole point of the GR of Ricoh going smaller is they wanted to keep it smaller and in the spirit, but it would have been a better camera if it had this. And I think a lot of guys that had X70s would move on to this, but there's no articulating screen. And so, people are waiting for the X. And sorry, I have the accessory lens hood on this, and one of the things with the X70 that was great is you don't need an adapter. You just put on all the accessory lenses. It also has a 21mm wide angle accessory lens that you can put on the X70, or you can thread this lens hood on here like that. And in the second part here, if you take this off, if I can do this, now you have a 49mm filter thread, and as I was showing you before, you can just screw something on like this, and now you could put filters on here. So the X70 was a pretty darn good camera, a great competition to the GR and the GR2, but Fujifilm has not updated it. But it has a focus ring in the front, it has aperture control, but this is a two-handed camera. That's the problem. The two-handed camera, for some, they just wanted something pocketable, and a lot of guys that wanted a pocketable camera went with the GR. And so you want something small and compact, here you go, something small and compact. But people will be looking at something like this, but in terms of resolution, this will out-resolve this because of 16 megapixel versus 24. This is 24, but this has a sharper lens and it has IBIS. And so I think in the end, which is the better camera? Well, the better camera is a GR3, but for the price, the XF10 is a great deal. Now, another weird camera that people seem to be comparing it to, and they've always kind of compared it to, is the the X100. And I think it's a really weird comparison because I think a lot of guys who shoot street want to see which is a better street camera, but these two cameras shoot so differently. This has a hybrid optical electronic viewfinder. It has a lot of knobs and controls. It's a two-handed camera. You definitely need to strap this around your neck. It's not heavy, but I know some guys do wrist strap this, but I prefer this around my neck. It has way more controls and dials. It has a shutter speed dial. It's a really different way of shooting, but they're both great street cameras. And this also is a 35 millimeter equivalent f2 versus a 28 millimeter equivalent f2.8. Although you can get two different adapters for this, and you can get one that makes it into a 50 f2 equivalent lens or a 28 f2 equivalent wide angle lens. It's not that wide, but you can make this X100F to a 28 mil. So in terms of field of view, you will get a very similar field of view. Both are APS-C. Both are great street cameras. There's no IBIS in this camera here, but you have f2. And this camera, the GR3, doesn't have as much manual functional controls, but it seems like a weird comparison. A lot of people are trying to compare these because even in price point, this is still more expensive. I see if you want something compact and you're willing to shoot without using a viewfinder, then this is a great camera. And I think if you're already a GR shooter, you don't need to be convinced of the value of a camera like this. But if you're looking at street, I thought just for the sake of comparison, people will want to know. And so here this camera is. And just one more thing I say one more thing and I keep on talking about more things, is that talking about flash options. Another option that Ricoh can do is this Olympus XA. It's a little film point and shoot back in the day. It actually had manual focus and aperture control right here. But this is a small camera, except it had an accessory flash that you added on to the side here. Let's just screw this off. If Ricoh so you can see how small this camera is on its own, right? It's a very tiny film camera. If Ricoh could figure out a way, look at that. Look at that. If they could figure out a way, and just move all this stuff just to show how awesome it looks. Ricoh, are you listening? Imagine you can create a flash that you can attach to the side. For those that want flash, there's those that just like, I don't want flash. But imagine this even being controlled through like an infrared controller or through Bluetooth or something like that. If they can have something like this, how does this look, guys? What do you guys think? There you go. And so that's another option instead of having a flash up top here like that, or having another flash over here like this, right? Or just having a little side access. So I think having a flash is great. Ricoh, I know why you remove the flash, but see, if you have a flash like this, and then you put an optical viewfinder, and maybe this will be like my thumbnail. What do you think? Should this be my thumbnail? I'll just like hold this still, and then I will post this, and everyone will be like, what on earth does Take have in his hand? I'm gonna now do a shooting test. So actually in the field, shooting with this camera, and I'll let you know what I think. But I have the GR3 for 2 weeks, and then after that, I'm gonna put my pictures together. It takes time to look at my pictures and review it. I'll try to do another little quick video, so I'll get my wife to be camera girl again and be my videographer, and we'll shoot a video with the GR. And so thanks for watching. Thank you, Ricoh Imaging North America, for sending me this, and hopefully I can get a longer term review copy of this, and if I really like it, maybe I'll buy it. Because like I bought this. These weren't gifted to me, and so this is a review copy, and if I really like this, Who knows? So thanks for watching again. We'll talk to you soon. And happy shooting.